Hi, I'm Shay, your RP devotee. Last week we went over some advice if you're a new player looking to get started, so I figured this week we could go over advice if you're a new game master looking to start your first campaign. And next week before we start, I promise to get a haircut. Okay, let's get started. Tip number 1, run a one-shot. One-shots are a really good low-stakes way of gauging interest in a system and seeing if your players are into it. By running things just one session or maybe for a few hours at a time, you sort of get a feel for the system, you get a feel for your own style and your interest, how you would do things. And if you're not really familiar with the rules, that's okay. If things don't go so well, you don't need to keep going with it. But if they do, if everything works out, then you can always go forward and continue on as a full campaign. So when you found something that works for you and that everyone's excited about, the second thing you're gonna wanna do is run a session 0. A session 0 is where you sit down with your players and you figure out what kind of game everyone wants to play. Some people might wanna do a lot of combat or run around in dungeons a lot. Others might want to do political intrigue. They may want to solve mystery and not get their hands dirty so much. Another really important part of a session 0 is to get to know what your players are comfortable with and what they're not. As an example, you wouldn't take someone with arachnophobia and throw a bunch of spiders at them. You wouldn't take someone who had just lost a family pet and have them get into combat with zombie dogs. By figuring out where your players' boundaries are and respecting them, you make sure that the game continues to flow well and doesn't come to a halt just because you didn't know what makes them uncomfortable. That brings us to number 3. Flow is more important than precision, and rulings are more important than rules. You want to be someone who can make judgments in the moment. You can always come back to a rule. You don't need to know everything perfectly in the moment. At the end of a session, if you didn't do something right, or if a player brings something up, do it that way the next time. But don't get bogged down in the middle of a game, spending 10, 20 minutes flipping through pages looking for that one little thing while everyone else has lost interest and they're all on their phones. Number 4, don't shut down player ideas. If something's really exciting, if you like what the players are doing or they suggested, you can say yes and keep building on it, keep going with it. If you're not so sure, or you just don't think something's realistic or it would work, if you say no, also say but. In other words, include an alternative. Give them some other way of accomplishing their goal or something else that they can attach themselves to. That way, they're still interested, they're still invested in what's going on, they want to be involved, and they don't feel like you shut them down and left them with nowhere to go. Be a dungeon master who says yes and or no but, and you'll have really engaged players because they know that no matter what they do, it's always going to have a fun outcome. And the last tip, and it's gonna sound obvious, but I'm gonna say it anyway, and that's take notes. Take every note. Take all the notes you can. You can use whatever you want, be it pen and paper, OneNote for Windows, Apple Notes, or if you want something a little more sophisticated, there's a program that comes highly recommended called World Anvil. It has a free tier, although there are paid tiers as well. I can leave a link in the description. It allows you to do secret GM notes. You can co-collaborate with other game masters. You can do timelines. You can do calendars. There's just a bunch of features in there that really let you elevate your note-taking to the next level. Look, all we're trying to do is make sure that we've got a reference document. So if the characters visit that shopkeep from last week, you want to make sure that he's got the same name. Maybe a player has shared a little bit more backstory with you. They've let you know more secrets in their life or their history. If you can use that down the road, it'll show them that you've taken a real interest in them. When the game master references something from your backstory and ties it into that universe you're all creating, that's satisfying roleplay. So if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more, I'd appreciate it if you liked and subscribed, and until next week, who am I? Just another RP devotee. I don't know if this will bleed into the clip of me laughing. And as weird as it sounds, I'm like, should I include some laughing clips? No, that's terrible. Okay.